Richard Harding was a name whispered in boardrooms with reverence, a titan of industry. His skyscrapers kissed the clouds, his investments shaped economies. But behind the polished facade of power and success, Richard was empty. His days were a blur of meetings and mergers. His nights, silent in his sprawling penthouse overlooking the city. He had everything, yet possessed nothing that truly mattered. Richard's life revolved around Harding Industries, a global conglomerate he had built from the ground up. His drive was legendary, his focus unwavering. But this relentless pursuit of success had come at a cost. Relationships withered, friendships faded, and a deep sense of isolation began to creep into his soul. He often found himself staring out at the twinkling city lights, a cold emptiness echoing in his heart. He yearned for something more, something real, but the memory of a failed marriage haunted him. He thought he had provided for Sarah, his ex-wife, handsomely in the divorce. He assumed she and the girls were comfortable, living a good life. He hadn't bothered to check. He buried himself in work, convincing himself it was for the best. He was wrong, horribly wrong, and soon, fate would deliver a harsh and unexpected wake-up call. 10 years ago, Richard was a different man. He was Richard, the husband, the father. He remembered the day he met Sarah. She was vibrant, full of life, an artist with paint-stained hands and a smile that could melt glaciers. He was instantly smitten. Their love story unfolded like a fairy tale. A whirlwind romance, a beautiful wedding, and then the miracle of Lily and Rose. The twins arrived, 2 tiny bundles of joy, filling their lives with laughter and chaos. Richard cherished those early years. He would rush home from work to read them bedtime stories, his booming voice softened by the sheer joy of fatherhood. He remembered Sarah's eyes, sparkling with happiness as she watched him with their daughters. But somewhere along the way, the fairy tale began to crumble. The long hours at work took their toll. The stress of building an empire strained their relationship. Richard became distant, preoccupied, and Sarah felt increasingly alone. They drifted apart, communication dwindled, and eventually, the love that had once burned so brightly flickered and died. The divorce was amicable but painful. He believed he was doing what was best for everyone. He couldn't have been more wrong. The memory of their smiles, once so full of love, now haunted his dreams. Sarah's life after the divorce was a stark contrast to the opulent world Richard inhabited. The settlement, while seemingly generous, dwindled quickly under the weight of childcare costs, medical bills, and the relentless search for stable employment. Her artistic talent, once a source of joy, became a luxury she could no longer afford. Paintbrushes were replaced with application forms, canvases with cleaning supplies. She took on odd jobs, cleaning houses, waitressing at a diner, anything to make ends meet. Each day was a struggle, a constant juggling act to provide for Lily and Rose. The twins, oblivious to the extent of their mother's hardship, remained her unwavering source of strength. Their bright smiles and innocent laughter fueled her determination to keep going, even when she felt like giving up. They lived in a small, cramped apartment in a less-than-desirable neighborhood. The walls were thin, the heating unreliable, but Sarah did her best to make it a home. She filled it with love, laughter, and the colorful artwork the twins created with crayons and construction paper. She shielded them from the harsh realities of their situation, determined to give them a happy childhood, despite the circumstances. Sleep was a luxury, worry her constant companion. Would she be able to pay the rent? Would she find a better job? The questions swirled in her mind each night as she drifted off to a restless sleep. Richard, meanwhile, remained blissfully ignorant of Sarah's hardships. He lived in a world of private jets, Michelin-star restaurants, and designer suits. He rarely thought about Sarah or the twins, except perhaps a fleeting pang of guilt on their birthdays. He sent generous gifts, of course, expensive toys and clothes that he assumed would bring them joy. He never considered that what they truly needed was his presence, his support, his love. His world was carefully curated, shielded from the realities faced by ordinary people. His advisors and assistants ensured that he was surrounded by comfort and luxury. He never saw the struggling single mothers, the families relying on food banks, the homeless people sleeping on the streets. He was insulated by his wealth, blinded by his ambition. He justified his detachment by telling himself that he was providing for them financially. He convinced himself that Sarah was happy, that the twins were thriving. He had built an empire after all. He was a provider. What more could he do? He never bothered to visit, to call, to truly connect. He lived in a gilded cage of his own making, oblivious to the storm brewing just beyond its bars. He was about to learn a painful lesson about the true meaning of family and the devastating consequences of neglect. The day Richard's carefully constructed reality shattered began like any other. He was on his way to a luncheon with potential investors, his mind preoccupied with closing a multi-million-dollar deal. His chauffeured limousine glided through the city streets, a mobile fortress of tinted glass and leather seats. As they approached a traffic light near a bustling grocery store, Richard glanced out the window. His eyes widened in disbelief. Standing near the entrance, holding a cardboard sign, was a woman he knew all too well. It was Sarah. Her clothes were worn, her face etched with exhaustion, but there was no mistaking her. Beside her stood two small girls, their faces smudged with dirt, their eyes wide with a mixture of fear and hope. Lily and Rose. The sign read, "Single mom. Need help feeding my children." Richard felt a punch to his gut. Disbelief warred with a surge of guilt and a profound sense of shame. He couldn't believe what he was seeing. His Sarah, begging for money? His daughters, his beautiful daughters, reduced to this? The light changed. The limousine moved forward. But Richard's world had stopped. He knew in that instant that everything was about to change. Richard couldn't shake the image from his mind. He canceled the luncheon, much to the dismay of his advisors, and instructed his driver to return to the grocery store. He couldn't bring himself to approach Sarah directly. Not yet. He needed to understand, to see for himself. He parked the limousine a block away and walked back to the store, careful to remain unnoticed. He watched Sarah and the twins from across the street. He saw the way people averted their eyes, the hurried footsteps, the occasional coin dropped into their makeshift collection cup. He saw Sarah's weary smile as she thanked each person, her voice barely audible above the city noise. He watched Lily and Rose, their small hands clutching each other, their faces a mixture of hope and resignation. He noticed their clothes were patched and faded, their shoes worn thin. He saw them share a single granola bar, each taking small bites, savoring every crumb. The scene was a stark contrast to the images he had conjured in his mind: happy, well-fed children playing with expensive toys. The reality was heartbreaking. He saw the quiet dignity in Sarah's eyes, the unwavering love she had for her daughters, despite their circumstances. He felt a wave of nausea, a profound sense of responsibility. He had to do something. He couldn't stand by and watch them suffer any longer. He took a deep breath and crossed the street. Sarah looked up, her eyes widening in surprise, then narrowing in suspicion. "Richard?" she asked, her voice barely a whisper. He nodded, unable to speak. He knelt down in front of Lily and Rose, his heart aching as he looked into their innocent faces. "Hi, girls," he said, his voice thick with emotion. I'm Richard." Lily, ever the bolder of the two, spoke first. "Mommy says you used to be our daddy." Richard swallowed hard. "Yes, I did. A long time ago." Sarah pulled the girls closer, her grip tightening on their hands. "Richard, what are you doing here?" she asked, her voice laced with caution. I saw you," he stammered. "I saw you here. I didn't know. I didn't realize." Sarah's eyes flashed with anger. "You didn't realize? You sent a check every month, Richard. You thought that was enough? You never bothered to ask how we were doing, how we were living." Tears welled up in her eyes. "We've been struggling, Richard. We've been barely surviving. I've tried everything, but it's not enough. I have to feed my children." Richard's heart broke. He had been so blind, so selfish. He had failed them. He had to make things right. "I'm so sorry, Sarah," he said, his voice filled with genuine remorse. "I'm so sorry." He reached out to touch her hand, but she pulled away. "Sorry isn't enough, Richard," she said, her voice trembling. "But it's a start." That night, Richard couldn't sleep. Sarah's words echoed in his mind, a constant reminder of his failure. He knew he couldn't just throw money at the problem. He needed to do something meaningful, something that would truly make a difference in their lives. He decided to act, but anonymously. He wanted his actions to speak louder than his words, at least initially. He contacted his real estate attorney, instructing him to find a suitable home for Sarah and the twins. He wanted something safe, comfortable, and close to good schools. He emphasized the need for discretion. He didn't want Sarah to know he was behind it, not yet. Within a week, the attorney found a charming 2-story house in a quiet, family-friendly neighborhood. It had a small backyard, perfect for the twins to play in, and a bright, sunny kitchen. Richard instructed the attorney to purchase the house outright and furnish it completely, down to the smallest detail. He wanted it to be a fresh start, a place where Sarah and the girls could feel safe, secure, and loved. He also arranged for a substantial amount of groceries to be delivered to the house, enough to fill the pantry and refrigerator. He hoped that this act of kindness would provide Sarah with some relief, some breathing room, and a sense of hope for the future. He knew it wasn't a solution, but it was a start. He was determined to earn their forgiveness and rebuild their lives, one step at a time. A week later, Sarah received an unexpected phone call. A woman's voice, polite and professional, informed her that she had been selected to receive a rent-free home for 1 year, courtesy of an anonymous benefactor. Sarah was stunned. She cautiously agreed to view the property. The address led her to a charming house nestled on a quiet street. As she approached, she couldn't help but feel a sense of disbelief. It was too good to be true. The house was beautiful, with a freshly painted exterior and a neatly manicured lawn. The woman from the phone call met her at the door and ushered her inside. Sarah's eyes widened as she took in the bright, airy rooms, the comfortable furniture, and the fully stocked kitchen. Lily and Rose, who had accompanied her, squealed with delight as they explored the backyard. Sarah was overwhelmed. Tears streamed down her face as she tried to process the reality of what was happening. Who would do this for her? Why? The only person who came to mind was Richard, but she couldn't imagine him doing something like this anonymously. It wasn't his style. Or was it? She thanked the woman profusely, her mind racing with questions. As she drove back to their cramped apartment, she felt a mixture of gratitude, confusion, and a nagging suspicion that Richard was somehow involved. She knew she had to find out the truth. This was too significant to ignore. The life of her and her daughters was about to change forever. Richard wasn't content with just providing a home. He knew Sarah needed a stable income, a job that would allow her to utilize her talents and provide for her daughters long-term. He remembered her passion for graphic design, a skill she had put aside to raise the twins and work odd jobs. He discreetly contacted the head of the marketing department at one of his smaller companies, a boutique advertising agency known for its creative campaigns. He instructed him to create a position specifically for Sarah, a role that would allow her to showcase her design skills and work flexible hours. He emphasized that she was to be hired based on her merit, not on his influence. Sarah received another unexpected phone call, this time from the advertising agency. They had seen her online portfolio, a remnant from her pre-divorce days, and were impressed with her talent. They offered her a position as a junior graphic designer, with the possibility of advancement based on her performance. Sarah was ecstatic. It was the opportunity she had been waiting for, a chance to reignite her passion and provide a better future for her daughters. She accepted the position immediately, her heart filled with hope and gratitude. She still suspected Richard's involvement, but she decided to focus on the opportunity and prove herself. She knew that if he was behind it, he would eventually reveal himself. In the meantime, she was determined to make the most of this second chance. The move to the new house was like stepping into a dream. Lily and Rose were ecstatic, finally having their own rooms, a backyard to play in, and a sense of stability they had never known before. They thrived in their new environment, making friends quickly and excelling in school. Sarah, too, felt a renewed sense of hope. The weight of constant worry began to lift, replaced by a sense of purpose and accomplishment. She loved her new job, her creativity flourishing in the supportive atmosphere of the advertising agency. She was finally able to provide for her daughters without sacrificing her own well-being. She enrolled Lily and Rose in after-school activities, allowing them to explore their interests and develop their talents. Lily showed a passion for dance, while Rose excelled at art, much like her mother. Sarah made sure to attend every recital, every art show, her heart swelling with pride. The twins noticed the change in their mother. She was happier, more relaxed, and more present in their lives. They loved their new home, their new school, and their new friends. They were finally able to experience a normal childhood, filled with laughter, love, and endless possibilities. They still missed their dad, but they were grateful for the opportunities they had been given, even if they didn't know where they came from. Sarah, though still suspicious, allowed herself to enjoy this new chapter, cautiously optimistic about the future. Richard, still watching from a distance, saw the transformation in Sarah and the twins. He saw Sarah's smile, brighter than he had seen it in years. He saw Lily and Rose laughing, playing, and thriving in their new environment. He felt a surge of pride, but also a deep sense of longing. He was providing for them, but he wasn't with them. He began to question his own life choices. He had dedicated his life to building an empire, sacrificing everything else in the process. He had wealth, power, and prestige, but he was alone. He had missed out on his daughter's childhood, and he had allowed his marriage to crumble. He started spending less time at the office, delegating more responsibilities to his team. He started exploring new hobbies, things he had always been too busy to pursue. He took up painting, inspired by Sarah's artistic talent. He started volunteering at a local children's hospital, finding solace in helping others. He realized that true success wasn't measured in dollars and cents, but in the relationships he built and the impact he had on the lives of others. He wanted to be a part of Sarah and the twins' lives again, not just as a provider, but as a father and, perhaps one day, as a husband. He knew it would take time, effort, and genuine commitment, but he was willing to do whatever it took to earn their forgiveness and rebuild their family. He was finally starting to understand what truly mattered in life. Sarah's suspicion about Richard's involvement grew stronger with each passing day. The house was too perfect, the job too convenient. She started digging, discreetly asking questions, piecing together clues like a detective solving a mystery. She learned that the real estate attorney who had facilitated the house purchase had close ties to Harding Industries. She discovered that the advertising agency that had hired her was owned by a subsidiary of Richard's company. The pieces began to fall into place, forming a clear picture of Richard's anonymous acts of kindness. One evening, while browsing through old family photos, she found a picture of Richard wearing a distinctive watch, a limited edition timepiece she had given him as a wedding anniversary gift. She remembered seeing the same watch on the wrist of a man she had briefly encountered at the advertising agency, a man who had seemed oddly familiar but whom she couldn't quite place. The realization hit her like a ton of bricks. It was Richard. He had been watching her, observing her, ensuring that she was thriving in her new role. The evidence was overwhelming. She knew, without a doubt, that Richard was her anonymous benefactor. She felt a mix of emotions, gratitude, relief, and a touch of anger. She was grateful for his generosity, relieved that her daughters were finally safe and secure, but angry that he hadn't been honest with her from the beginning. She decided it was time to confront him and demand the truth. Sarah called Richard, requesting to meet him at a quiet park near her new home. When he arrived, she could see the apprehension in his eyes. He knew something was up. "Richard," she began, her voice steady but firm, "I know everything." He looked at the ground, avoiding her gaze. "Sarah, the house, the job, it was all you, wasn't it?" she asked, cutting him off. He sighed, admitting, "Yes, it was. I wanted to help, but I didn't know how to approach you. I was afraid you wouldn't accept my help if you knew it was from me." "You're right," Sarah said. I probably wouldn't have. But why the secrecy, Richard? Why not just be honest? I was ashamed, Sarah, he confessed. I was ashamed of how I had treated you and the girls. I wanted to prove that I had changed, that I was capable of being a good father, a good person. I wanted to earn your forgiveness. Sarah softened, seeing the genuine remorse in his eyes. I appreciate what you've done, Richard. The house and the job have been a lifesaver for me and the girls. But I'm worried. What is this all about? What do you want from us? She needed to know his true motives. Was this just guilt-driven charity, or something more? The well-being of her daughters depended on her understanding his true intentions. She looked at him expectantly, waiting for his response. The air hung heavy with unspoken questions and a shared history. Richard took a deep breath, his eyes meeting Sarah's with sincerity. I want to be a part of your lives again, Sarah. Not just as someone who sends a check, but as a father to Lily and Rose, and maybe, if you'll let me, as someone you can trust and maybe even care for again. He continued, seeing you and the girls begging that day, it broke me, Sarah. It made me realize how much I had lost, how much I had taken for granted. I know I can't undo the past, but I want to make amends. I want to be there for Lily and Rose, to support them, to guide them, to love them. He paused, reaching for her hand, but stopping short. And I want to be there for you, Sarah. I know I hurt you, and I'm truly sorry for that. I understand if you can never forgive me, but I hope you'll give me a chance to show you that I've changed. He confessed, the truth is, Sarah, I never stopped loving you. I was just too proud, too focused on my career to realize what was truly important. I was a fool, but I'm not that man anymore. I want to be a better man, a better father, a better partner. Will you let me try? He looked at her, his eyes filled with hope and vulnerability. The weight of his confession hung in the air, waiting for her response. Sarah looked at Richard, her heart aching with a mix of emotions. She saw the genuine remorse in his eyes, the sincerity in his voice. She knew he had made mistakes, big ones, but she also knew that people could change. She had seen the positive impact his actions had had on her and the twins. Richard, she said softly, I can't promise you anything. I need time to think, to process everything. But I'm willing to try. For the girls. They deserve to have their father in their lives. She continued, we can start with co-parenting. You can spend time with Lily and Rose, get to know them again. We can take it slow, one step at a time. But I need you to be honest with me, Richard. No more secrets, no more hidden agendas. I need to know that I can trust you. She added, and I need you to understand that the girls come first. Their well-being is my top priority. If I see anything that puts them at risk, I won't hesitate to protect them. Richard nodded, his eyes filled with gratitude. I understand, Sarah. I promise to be honest with you, to respect your boundaries, and to always put the girls first. I won't let you down. Sarah offered him a small smile. Okay, Richard, let's see what happens. The future was uncertain, but for the first time in a long time, Sarah felt a glimmer of hope. Maybe, just maybe, they could rebuild their family, brick by brick, based on honesty, trust, and love. Richard was overjoyed. He immediately began scheduling regular visits with Lily and Rose. He took them to the park, to the movies, and to the zoo. He listened to their stories, their dreams, and their fears. He learned about their favorite colors, their favorite animals, and their favorite subjects in school. He made an effort to be present, to be engaged, to be the father they deserved. He helped them with their homework, attended their school events, and cheered them on at their extracurricular activities. He even started learning how to braid Lily's hair, much to her amusement. The twins were initially hesitant, unsure of how to react to this newfound attention from their father. But as they spent more time with him, they began to warm up to him. They saw that he was genuinely trying to make amends, that he truly cared about them. They started calling him Dad again, a word that filled Richard's heart with an overwhelming sense of joy. He knew he had a long way to go to earn their complete trust and forgiveness, but he was determined to keep trying. He was finally starting to build a real relationship with his daughters. a bond that had been missing for far too long. He cherished every moment, every laugh, every hug. He was becoming the father he always should have been. The emptiness inside him began to fill with the love of his daughters. Richard's transformation extended beyond his relationship with his daughters. He began to reevaluate his priorities, recognizing that his relentless pursuit of wealth had come at a great cost. He started delegating more responsibilities at Harding Industries and trusting his team with the day-to-day operations. He used his wealth to support various charitable causes, focusing on organizations that helped single mothers and underprivileged children. He donated generously to food banks, homeless shelters, and educational programs, making a tangible difference in the lives of those in need. He even established a foundation in Sarah's name, dedicated to supporting aspiring artists from disadvantaged backgrounds. He wanted to honor her talent and provide opportunities for others to pursue their dreams, regardless of their financial circumstances. He realized that true fulfillment came not from accumulating wealth, but from using it to make a positive impact on the world. He found joy in giving back, in helping others, and in using his resources to create a better future for those less fortunate. He was finally understanding the true meaning of success, a success measured not in dollars and cents, but in the lives he touched and the difference he made. He was learning that the greatest wealth was the wealth of the heart. He was using his resources for good. As Richard spent more time with Sarah and the twins, a sense of warmth and connection began to grow between them. They started doing things as a family again, having dinner together, going on weekend trips, and celebrating holidays. Sarah saw a different side of Richard, a side she had almost forgotten. He was kind, compassionate, and genuinely interested in their lives. He listened to her, supported her dreams, and made her laugh. She found herself enjoying his company, appreciating his presence, and maybe, just maybe, starting to fall in love with him again. The twins were thrilled to have their parents spending time together. They loved seeing them laugh, joke, and support each other. They started to imagine a future where their family was whole again, a future filled with love, happiness, and togetherness. Sarah and Richard were cautious, taking things slow, one step at a time. They knew they had a long way to go, but they were committed to rebuilding their relationship, based on honesty, trust, and a shared love for their daughters. They learned to communicate openly, to forgive each other's past mistakes, and to focus on creating a better future together. They found that the love they had once shared was still there, buried beneath layers of hurt and regret, but ready to blossom again, stronger and more resilient than before. They were starting to rebuild what they had lost. Years passed. Lily and Rose blossomed into bright, confident young women, excelling in their studies and pursuing their passions. Lily became a professional dancer, captivating audiences with her grace and artistry. Rose followed in her mother's footsteps, becoming a talented graphic designer, using her creativity to make a positive impact on the world. Sarah and Richard's relationship deepened, evolving from co-parents to close friends, and eventually to something more. The love they had once shared had been rekindled, stronger and more resilient than ever before. They learned from their past mistakes, communicating openly and honestly, always putting their daughters first. One sunny afternoon, Richard took Sarah back to the park where they had first discussed co-parenting. He knelt down on one knee, his eyes filled with love and sincerity. "Sarah," he said, his voice trembling with emotion, "will you marry me again?" Tears streamed down Sarah's face as she nodded, her heart overflowing with joy. "Yes, Richard," she whispered. "Yes, I will." Lily and Rose, who had been secretly watching from a distance, ran towards them, cheering and applauding. They knew that their family was finally whole again, not just in name, but in heart. It had been a long and difficult journey, filled with pain, regret, and forgiveness, but they had finally found their way back to each other. Their love story, once broken, had been rewritten, stronger and more beautiful than ever before. The wedding was a beautiful, intimate affair, held in the backyard of Sarah's home, surrounded by family and friends. Lily and Rose served as the maids of honor, their eyes sparkling with happiness as they watched their parents exchange vows. As Sarah and Richard stood at the altar, holding hands, they knew that they had overcome incredible obstacles to get to this moment. They had faced hardship, regret, and forgiveness, but they had emerged stronger and more united than ever before. Looking out at their daughters, their faces beaming with love and pride, they knew that their family was finally complete. It wasn't a conventional family, perhaps, but it was their family, built on a foundation of love, honesty, and unwavering support. The story that started with a billionaire seeing his ex-wife begging had transformed into a story of redemption, forgiveness, and the enduring power of love. It was a testament to the fact that even the most broken relationships can be mended, that even the deepest wounds can be healed, and that even the most unlikely of people can find their way back to each other. The family was whole in heart and in spirit. The end.